In this lesson, we will learn in detail Introduction to Blender User Interface. If you're new to Blender, whether you come in from another software or this is your first 3D application to begin with and you want to get started with it and have a good grip on this, well, you're in the right place. In this video, I will give you in detail Introduction to Blender. Whenever you open Blender, the first thing you will see is a splash screen right in the middle of the window. Splash screen is good for a couple of reasons. First, it shows you the version of Blender that you're working on the top left corner where the Blender's icon is located and the Blender text is written right in front of that. You will see the version of the Blender that you're working in. On the top right corner, you will probably see the date on which the Blender version was compiled. In my case, it's missing for some reason. In middle, you will see a screenshot of a recently done project of some sort. Down here, you will see interaction. Interaction is the key configuration system for the navigation of the software. Well, it will give you a couple of options to choose from. By default, Blender is selected, which is the default key configuration system. Down here, it will give you the recent file that you've been working on. It will list it in an order that new will be listed on the top and the oldest will be in the bottom. Well, it is very useful to have this list because you can open the recent file right away rather than to go into the file and open it up. Open any recent file or current file that you're working on. From there, you can open those files that you're currently working on right away. Below that, you will see recover last session. What it does is, in any case, if Blender is crashed while you're working on a project or you just forgot to save the file that you've been working on for hours, in those cases, you can come here and recover the last session. Here it will give you links to the website if you want to donate or see the credit, see the manual, or go to the Blender website. It will give you those links and some other links too. To close the splash screen, all you have to do is press outside the splash screen but inside the Blender window, or just simply press the escape key. To reopen it, all you have to do is go into the info header menu and go in the help and select the splash screen from here, or you just have to click the icon right here in the info header. Now moving on to the user interface. This is the most important part of this video and the main reason why I'm creating this tutorial. Many people find it extremely hard to use Blender in the beginning. The main reason why, because they don't understand the user interface very well. And many people, whether they're coming from another software or using this 3D application to begin with, they find Blender's learning curve very steep and confusing. I think the main reason is they don't understand the user interface very well. This is the very reason why they call it hard. In my opinion, Blender should be really easy to understand, and because it's very flexible and customizable. So the main goal of this video is to give you a good grip and understanding of the software from the very beginning. So when you close the splash screen, you should see something really similar to what you are seeing right here in this tutorial. To understand or to make you understand the user interface, I have to explain you some really important element and their function of the user interface. So in the window, or in the Blender's window, what we have is called the screen. Now the screen is basically the user interface layout of this software's window. In the info editor header, we also have options for different screen layout that are designed for the different tasks kept in mind. All you have to do is go into the header here. This is called the screen data block menu. You can choose, as it says, choose screen layout from this. Now, screen is organized into one or more area depending on the task, and each area containing an editor. By default, the default screen layout is divided into 5 areas. One is here being the info editor. Down here is called the 3D view editor, is the second one. Third and fourth are right here. One is called the outliner editor right here. The fifth or fourth is the property editor. This is right here, and the last is timeline editor, which is right here. These editors are contained within each area. An area is a resizable rectangular part of the screen that divides it into one or more sections and contains the workspace of a particular type of editor. We can split an area and resize them according to our needs. The idea is to split up the big screen into any number of smaller but still rectangular in non-overlapping areas. That way each area is completely and fully visible. Blender's flexibility with areas lets you create fully customizable working environment for different tasks. Hence, the user interface of Blender can be customized according to the need of any user, making the software extremely user-friendly. Now, how to manipulate an area? In order to do that, first we need to know where an area is, or where the area visually exists in the screen. You see this border line right here. These define an area. Within this border line lies an area. In order to show you that, let me just bring these areas down here to make it more visually clear for you. Let me just drag real quick up. Well, you see these border lines, these 3 border lines, one on the top right here, one at the bottom right here, where the cursor changes into the double arrow. These border define this area. Within this border lies this area, and these border are the border of these areas. So we have by default, or we have in our scene 5 different areas. One area containing this info editor. This border line is defining this area. One is containing this 3D view editor, as I show you this border line defining this. One right here, one down here, and one down here called the timeline editor. Total of 5 editor containing within these 5 areas. So once we see this area, let's just show you how to manipulate this area. There are 2 ways to do that. First, we can resize this area. In order to resize it, all we have to do is put our cursor right on the border of these areas. Once our cursor changes into double arrow, all we have to do is left click and drag it. We can do it by the horizontal border or even the vertical border. Right. Now the second thing is to split this area into 2 or more areas. In order to do that, we have to go to the ridge triangle we see right here. It's on the top and the bottom of an area. Whichever area we want to split into 2, we have to go to its ridge triangle, and when our cursor changes into a crosshair, we have to left click and drag it. Now, one thing to know that we have two triangles in our area, so if you have to split an area into two, the thing that you have to keep in mind is which triangle you're using. If you're using, let's say, the top right triangle of an area, all you have to do is either click and drag to the left if you're using this, or click and drag to the bottom. And if you're using the bottom left triangle, all you have to do is click and drag it to up, or click and drag it to the right. Let me just split it into four areas. So we have 4 views now. In order to split them back, you have to keep 2 things in mind. The first thing is the sharing border, or the sharing width or height should be same. Let's say we want to split this area into this area. We can't, because the horizontal line, the horizontal border of these 2 areas are not the same. They need to be exact same. Okay, now we can only merge only these 2 areas and these 2 areas. If we want to merge side by side, we have to make these 2 areas sharing the same horizontal border. Now we can merge all these borders into each other, since all of them share horizontal and vertical borders. In order to merge 2 areas, the second thing we need to keep in mind is that which triangle we are using. Just like when we are splitting it, what triangle we are using. If you're using the top right triangle, we need to know that we can either do it by left clicking and dragging it to the right, or left clicking and dragging it to the top. If you're using the bottom left triangle, we can do it by left clicking and dragging it to the bottom, or left clicking and dragging into the left. Let's just merge it real quick. Bottom and the top and right. Now a screen is divided into areas. An area contains an editor. An editor is further divided into regions. Regions are essentially the smaller structuring element of an editor, containing control widgets and buttons to manipulate the scene. Editor provides you with where to view and manipulate your work, and it does it by giving you those buttons and widgets and controllers in the region. Region contain different element in an editor, different structure or elements in an editor. In this case, we have, let's say, in the 3D view editor, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different regions. One region that is always visible is called the main region. The second region, which is also really important, is the header region, which is either on the bottom or on the top of an editor. It is this vertical strip. You can also flip it on the top or on the bottom by your own self. We see 3 more regions in this screen. One is called this tool shelf, the other is called the operating panel, the other is the property region, contain different panels. This is the operating region, this is the property region. This gives you the property of the selected object or the property of the editor itself. Now in this lesson, I have tried to explain the entire user interface of Blender as much as I could. I know I am not that good in explaining stuff. I think by time I will try my best to explain you in a better way. In the next lesson, we will learn navigation of some important editor in Blender. See you in the next lesson.